Welcome and for standing by. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. During the question and answer session, please press star 1 and record your name as prompted. Today's conference is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. Now I'd like to turn today's meeting over to Irene Skaricki. Thank you. You may begin.
Great, very much, and thanks everybody for joining our webinar on financial coaching today. Today we are joined by two guest speakers from two financial coaching programs who I'll introduce later, but I'm excited to have them join us. Just quickly, some people are having some issues with the audio. You do need to dial into the audio separately from the webinar. I guess anyone hearing my voice did that. Looks like most people are getting in, so we'll keep an eye on questions and answers in case people are having any issues hearing. So I am going to start off with just the usual kind of quick, I'm trying to get the slide, it's just quick disclaimer that government employees usually have to do, saying that we're providing legal guidance and legal interpretation advice or other things from the CFPB, and the views are the presenter's own. So just a quick one, I think probably most of you on the call know this and are familiar with the CFPB and FinEx, but I'll just do a few intro slides in case we have any newcomers. CFPB is the new federal agency in town, and we are tasked with helping consumer finance markets work by making rules more effective, consistently and fairly enforcing those rules, and helping consumers take more control of their economic lives. And it's clearly that third piece around helping consumers navigate their economic lives, their financial lives, that we are dealing with here through FinEx and on this webinar. Within our consumer-facing side, we have multiple offices that do different things to help consumers. I'm with the Financial Education Office, try to educate and empower consumers to better inform financial decisions, but we also work closely with the other offices that you can see, and we often share their materials as well. So, and then just quickly, again, probably many, if not all of you, are part of the CFPB Financial Education Exchange, but again, for anyone who might be new, CFPB FinEx is a way for us to get our materials to you, to financial educators of all types, and to hear back from you what's working and what sort of things you're learning. And so we have a number of things we do to communicate with financial educators. Anybody on this call is not getting a regular monthly webinar. If you just email CFPB_FinEx@cfpb.gov and say you want to subscribe or join, then I will add you to the list. Otherwise, probably most of you are getting that newsletter, I hope. And just quickly, we're about a year and a half in to FinEx's life so far, and we have been doing a number of things such as regional convenings around the country, regular newsletters, surveys of financial educators. This is, I think, our 18th webinar. Almost all are recorded and available on our website, so we encourage you to all access that. We just last week, I think we passed our 2,000th person for FinEx, so we're excited about that. Again, our goal is to really connect you to tools and resources. I like this slide because it has take all some of the resources we have. All of those gives you kind of a visual sense of some of the things out there. All of those things can be found in our resource inventory, which is online, although it needs to be updated. It's already a couple months out of date, and we've had some new things come out. That's all at the website. I'll just show you the screenshot up here. There we go. The Resources for Financial Educators website. It should be resources because there are, in fact, more than one. But it's consumerfinance.gov/adult-financial-education to catchiest. But that will take you to a website, and then on that inventory as well that has all of the things that we're going to talk about, that the FinEx has to offer, and including some of the things we'll talk about today. And I just noticed that someone has put a question in our online Q&A that asking for that email address again. You'll see it at the very end, but it's CFPB_FinEx, FINEX, @cfpb.gov. And again, it will come up on the screen near the end. And the last just little piece of background is we also have a link to discussion group. Again, if you go to that webpage, you can see how to join that, where you can also post your own materials as well as seeing ours. That's kind of my standard background on FinEx. Most of you probably have heard that before. Before we get to today's webinar topic, I want to note that we have our next webinar scheduled. I wanted to show you the preview for that. We usually do the fourth Thursday of the month, but because the fourth Thursday of November is Thanksgiving, I question your commitment to financial education. However, I would not ask you all to spend Thanksgiving on a webinar. So we moved it up by a week, Thursday, November 17th, and it will be a webinar featuring some new resources we have, reports and resources on youth, helping youth achieve financial capability, particularly building blocks, developmental building blocks from young children up through teenagers to help them move towards financial capability. So we'll be featuring a couple of speakers from the Bureau to talk about that on the 17th. So that's all my background. And now we can get to the topic. I am going to do the sort of overview of the research, and after I'm done, we will have, as mentioned, two guest speakers, which is very exciting to talk about their programs. So financial coaching, probably a lot of the people on the line have heard of it. There's been a lot of talk about financial coaching in the last few years. The financial coach is a one-on-one sort of program where a coach will work directly with a client to set or refine goals that the client wants to achieve, financial goals. The coach will work with the client to develop plans to take action toward those goals, and then will support clients over time, including holding the clients accountable to making sure that they're doing the things that they have said they want to do. And just a little diagram you can see up on the screen. We're just trying to capture the sense that there's different types of financial education. There's financial information, where people are given sort of information, in a group class or through brochures. There's also financial counseling, which is also one-on-one, and which usually is around a very specific problem or crisis or challenge, and a financial counselor will help people move towards making a good decision. And then coaching, which is really, again, more about supporting people to make decisions and take action. And all of these are valuable. No way are we saying one is more valuable, but just to be clear, the financial coaching piece is really about helping people move towards the goals that they have set and supporting them. So we wanted to find out, since this approach has been getting a lot of attention, we wanted to learn a little bit more about the effectiveness of financial coaching. And so what the CFPB did was to contract with the Urban Institute, which is a well-respected research and evaluation firm, to do a randomized control trial of two financial coaching programs. Urban finished this study and put out their long, very long evaluation report, almost a year ago. It is a great resource for all of you to look at if you want more details. In a number of places here, I will say if you want more details than what I'm going to say, you can go to the Urban report. It is linked to in the report that we put out. When at the CFPB then create a shorter research brief, you see the screenshot here, to kind of detail the high-level findings, and we thought of the particularly important findings. And also we did a brief on implications from that study for practitioners, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So again, there's a full, long research report, there's a research brief from us, and there is a practitioner report. So with the Urban Institute, and I want to note that the CFPB commissioned this research and paid for the study. Annie Casey Foundation, a private philanthropy, paid for a parallel process study to better understand how coaching actually worked, sort of from the perspective of the coaches and the client, not just from the the outcomes and numbers. And so we want to thank the Casey Foundation for co-funding the partnership, also thank Urban Institute, and also especially thank the two financial coaching programs, who were generous enough to let the researchers come in and lift it and poke around and see what was going on in coaching and gather data. We really appreciate their willingness to do that. Those two coaching programs that the Urban Institute evaluated were Branches, which is a faith-based nonprofit organization that does a number of different social services and financial services in Miami, and the Financial Clinic, a nonprofit organization in New York City that offers a number of free financial coaching, other financial services for working poor families in New York. And again, we have someone from each of those organizations, Katie and Karina, who will speak at the end. So thank you to those guys. They did have different, slightly different program models and different clients, which lets us get a sense of how coaching can work in different places. So I'll say a little bit about the study, and I know we can be kind of, kind of hurt your head around sometime or a lot of numbers, but this is important, I think, because we don't have a lot of very rigorous evaluations of financial education programs. There's a lot of research has been done, and it's all very helpful. Not that often that we really have a randomized control trial set. And randomized control trial, and again, many of you know this, is where you have both a treatment group and an identical control group. In this case, it was people who wanted financial coaching in both of those two places, and half of them were allowed to get coaching right away, and the other half who did want it, so they had presumably very similar motivation level and other characteristics, were told that they had to wait a while, and they couldn't get coaching right away. They could access it after 6 months, a year, or something, and that allowed us to then track them both and look at the differences, and allows us to really identify the specific impacts of financial coaching. A total of 945 clients across both of the two locations, New York and Miami, about half in treatment and half in control. And the results we'll show are actually looking at the offer of coaching. And while that sounds kind of like, no, not sure what that means. Someone didn't show up for coaching and they were in the treatment group, they are counted as having been coached in a way. So, so the numbers I'll present are in some ways the most sort of conservative way of looking at them. If you look just at the people who actually showed up for coaching, you would actually see larger results. So just keep that in mind. And both sets of results are presented in the full Urban paper if anybody wants to delve into that. This is a way to really measure what impact does coaching have on people who are, very similar to each other in terms of their interest in coaching. Just quickly, the participants or the clients were recruited in 2013 and 2014. January 2013 to March 2014, and then outcome data was collected from August through December 2014. We had 3 data sources, essentially. There was baseline follow-up surveys of participants, looked at credit reports from participants, and then there was administrative data from the coaching programs, meaning, their records of who can and what kind of goals they were looking at and things like that. So we have all that data on the participants. So all the background stuff, and I'm sure you're happy it's done. Well, it's not, sorry, one more background slide, which is, say, just a little about the difference between the clients in the two programs. Each program had a slightly different, somewhat different demographic they were serving. Branches was primarily working with employees of the municipal government in Miami. Low to moderate income, but again, for the most part, had employment and some benefits. They can see that their income was $39,000 and fairly high debt levels, around $56,000, but still pretty low credit score at 597. The financial clinic was dealing with a sort of people from general population of working poor who came into their working poor families who came into their locations, and you have a much lower employment level at around 43%, much lower income, $22,000 income, lower debt level, though still substantial at about $10,000, $11,000, but interestingly, a fairly similar credit score at 587. So again, these are fairly, and then all of the other demographics we have on, race, ethnicity, household size, we do have all that. I won't go through it now, all in both in the shorter CFPB report as well as in the long Urban report. If you want to see all that, then you can look at it there. But the basic point here is that it was fairly different types of clients, though all in need of or interested in financial coaching who came to the study. So I'm going to quickly share 3 buckets of I will note that there were a lot of different outcomes collected. We're reporting here on the ones that we thought were particularly striking or really showed the potential of financial coaching. There are certainly others where we didn't see as big an effect. Again, you can see all that in the longer report. For example, in some cases you might not expect to. Generally, the study saw very limited results or none or no impact on, say, retirement savings. In a sense, these are clients who are coming in for other things other than retirement. They weren't necessarily identifying that as a goal. So, but we drew a lot of that. Again, it's all in the longer report. 3 areas here. First, impact on money management behavior. So people offered access to coaching, and this is compared to people who were also offered access to coaching or interested in coaching, but not did have access because they were in the control group. They were more likely to pay bills on time generally and had an increased frequency of savings deposits. Clinic and branches had, in some cases, slightly different results. So we've reported some more specific ones below in terms of Constitutional Clinic had a 32% more deposits into savings. Branches clinics had 19% more. So there's different sort of specific results for each of the two sites, but in the aggregate, they were clients were more likely to pay bills on time again and increased frequency of savings deposits. So those are powerful findings. And one that's kind of interesting is in branches, 20% people who were offered coaching, 20% less likely to borrow from family and friends. Turning to the second kind of broad bucket, impact on savings, debt, and credit scores. In this case, there was more diversity across the different outcomes, in part because people had different goals and different starting points. But generally, there were improvements in savings levels and/or credit scores and/or reduced debt. In particular, Financial Clinic saw a little more increases of savings, saving per person of $1,187, increase in credit scores 21 points. The branch coaching clients are particularly high impact on reducing debt, quite a significant debt reduction for a branches client. The third broad bucket is around attitudes and sense of self-confidence. And here, again, across both sites, people offered access to coaching reported increased sense of confidence in their finances, reduced feelings of financial stress. And on the slide, you can see there's some different specific outcomes under that varied a little by site. So branches, 15% more satisfied with financial situation, 12% less financial stress. Financial Clinic, 82% more likely to report making progress towards non-retirement savings goals. So again, a variety of but all kind of adding up to their sense of confidence and reduced feelings of stress. So these are the impacts that we saw. There were a lot of additional things, again, you can see in the report. I'll just note that really these are very positive. Again, this was a randomized control trial, so you really are seeing the impact of the coaching process. And again, not everybody showed up for coaching. We'll say more about that in just a minute. So it's actually it's the most conservative way to report these numbers. So I think we've learned that coaching can make a meaningful impact in people's lives. And I think while many people suspected that before, this is actually very strong evidence to that effect. So now I'm going to turn to some findings on our implications for practitioners around implementing financial coaching. And after I go through a few of these points, our guest speakers from the Financial Clinic and branches can expand on all of this because they're the ones doing the work. So I'm very eager to have them be able to talk. But I'll just share the kind of 6 broad points that we saw in looking at the combination impact and process study. So first, kind of saw earlier, each of the 2 coaching programs were serving different types of consumers in different communities. Goals and interests were different too. For example, client branches had identified higher levels of debt and often identified debt reduction as a goal. And that was really a focus for the branches coaches. Financial Clinic, on the other hand, they're more likely to look at money management and tend to focus more on things like emergency savings accounts. So what we can learn from that is that coaching is a flexible approach that can work for many types of clients. It can be and adapted to the needs of community and the individuals being served. So obviously the implication for practice there is that you as potential or current implementers of coaching can design a program that can meet the needs of those who you are serving. The second point, this one, I think this and the next one I think are helpful setting expectations for practitioners. So coaching, I think both of these programs, and I've heard this certainly from other practitioners in the field, is often lower than expected. The biggest challenges that the coaching programs have faced was getting clients to come to an initial coaching session. So remember that everyone in this study had said they were interested in coaching. They signed up for the study, only again were given immediate access. But even amongst those who said interested, which is in this case everyone, half of the folks who had access to coaching actually ever showed up. 46% came to one session. At branches, 63% of folks never showed up. At financial clinic, 44%. I suspect is not a surprise for many of you on the phone. Both of those of you who are doing coaching and those who provide other types of financial education services, and get people to show up and to continue to show up is hard. People have complicated, busy lives, and adding one more thing to the schedule can be difficult, even if the person is interested. So I actually hope that these results will be comforting news to many of you. Even the most successful programs are likely to have a lot of people who don't show up, and some degree of drop-off. Clients, even those who had expressed interest, can be expected, and so practitioners can kind of set their expectations accordingly, while trying to do whatever you can to make it easier for people to participate. So some of the factors that the study found associated with greater take-up, clients with credit scores were somewhat more likely to attend a session. Which is that the researchers talked to said that it was important to establish credibility with clients, and that credibility and trust would then help people show up. Of course, that required you to come in at least once to meet with somebody. Coaches often told us that the clients who had higher levels of motivation, willpower, or passion for change or dissatisfaction with their current situation were often potential reasons why clients would take up coaching. And so Coach noted that it was important that clients understand that coaching is not a quick fix. It takes time, it takes work, and so helping to set people's expectations are important. And then obviously there are things around convenience and accessibility of the coaching that can impact take-up as well. So one of the lessons is that it's not going to be for everybody all the time, and it's important to think how to target the service to clients who are more likely to engage in and stick with coaching. That's easier to do in practice, perhaps, or easier to say than it is to do in practice. But there's certainly evidence that people who are in crisis may be more appropriate to go to financial counseling or some other type of service. People who kind of more have defined financial goals may be more successful. So it's some implications you can think through how to appropriately target coaching services. The practitioners can say more in a few minutes. Actually, the third lesson, this really builds on that, is that even folks who come initial 1 or 2 sessions may not always stay with. Some folks may come only for a short period of time, and that can also be successful. So just to note that the average of the people, the half of people who actually came to any coaching session at all, the average number of sessions attended was 2.7 at branches, 2.7 sessions, and 3.1 at the financial clinic. And across the two sites, there were 20% of people who came at all went to at least 5 sessions. Quite a few people came to just 1 session. So coaches really need to maintain the flexibility to address both short and longer-term client needs. If people may not show up for more than 1 session, so it's important to maximize the benefit of the first session. That was something we heard from the practitioners. And things like geography, transportation, other way are things to consider in designing a program, making it easier, and then finding ways to engage with people. So paying attention to initial impressions, encouraging financial coaches to engage clients quickly and effectively are all things that a practitioner can do if you understand that. Some people aren't going to go up more than once, to kind of make that valuable. Just a couple here. That we heard is that this probably comes as no surprise to most of you, but the most common issues that coaching clients were concerned with were credit and debt. I'm sure you see that in your own work. The specifics varied by site and by person. As I mentioned before, among branches, clients, debt was a major concern. The financial clinic, particularly, is about being able to access credit and make up for past delinquencies and credit problems. And the likelihood that these common concerns are going to be seen in other coaching places as well. It can be important to have things, tools, activities ready for clients around credit and debt resources. And then thinking about using credit and debt as activities as marketing, as part of marketing campaigns to get people to come in for coaching, since that seems to be an interest. It's another application for practitioners. On success, this really sums up some of the other things we've already said, but showed, the coaching programs were a positive impact on clients. But the impact can vary somewhat person to person, depending in large part on the person's motivation, according to the coaches who were interviewed as the study. And so coaches said they had clients who were uncomfortable talking about their personal budget and finances, in some cases issues with other family members who might be involved, and issues with clients who really looking for a quick fix for their financial issues. So all of these things are things that coaches can work on to better understand and find the motivations and challenges of coaching clients and work with them in order to lead to a more successful experience. And lastly, my last thing I'm going to say is there's a variety of different approaches to financial coaching training. Branches in Financial Clinic had slightly different models, and there's many others out there. Branches employed coaches with business and financial planning backgrounds, or from the nonprofit sector, or from the nonprofit sector. Financial Clinic had both financial fellows who were recent college graduates who were doing one-year terms of service, and also career coaches who had more experience in social services, financial sectors. And again, both programs showed a lot of success. So I think there's room for many different types of models here. We'll just note that while accreditation and certification programs for financial coaches do exist, their coaches at Financial Clinic or branches initially had formal coaching accreditation. Both organizations trained people to be coaches. And also, both of these programs had used specialized coaches, so this doesn't really provide insight into whether types of staffing, like using caseworkers or counselors, who could swing forth between coaching. We can't state the impact of that, or volunteer coaches, things like that. But certainly in the case of the programs we evaluated, there was a diversity of ways to recruit and train coaches, and there's options that a practitioner could explore in doing that. I'm going to stop there because it is time to hear from, I'm going to say one more thing, a couple of things, which we have a few other resources at the Bureau coaches may want to consider using. We have a budgeting worksheet called My New Money Goal that might be something a coach could use. I'll just put one screenshot up there. Again, it can be found on our webpage and inventory. We also have a worksheet on 5 steps for making financial decisions that kind of meshes with a coaching approach that might be useful for folks. Again, something you can order. And then also we have rules to live by worksheets on different topics that are something a coach could use to have clients help set goals and then determine how to stick by their own rules to live by. So I just wanted to put those up there to say that there's a lot of things we have, as well as many other resources out in the field people interested in coaching could use apply some of these lessons. So now stop, and we are going to from Haiti Carrera from the Financial Clinic and Karina Ron from Branches. Haiti, are you going first?
Can you hear me?
A little bit louder. And actually, I want to say one thing before you start, which is that you've listened for a long time, and now you'll listen to practitioners speak. We will have time for questions and answers at the end. If anyone has any immediate clarifying questions, you can put it into the Q&A box in the WebEx. There's a place where you can send questions, and we are monitoring those. And so I can answer anything or ask the Hayden, Karina, and then at the end we will open up for voice questions as well. You'll be able to ask questions over the phone. So just want to say that, so you will have a chance to ask questions. Okay, so let's go. I will put up.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Haiti Kebesar. I'm the Chief Program Officer at the Financial Clinic, and I'm totally happy to be here to be talking about the financial coaching program. Especially with Irene and CFPB, who are such great supporters of the study, and Karina, who is a very dear and old friend of ours. The Finex was founded years ago in New York City because 10 million households across the country work full-time but have trouble making ends meet. And that is building financial security. Financial insecurity prevents individuals from achieving mobility and social service organizations from achieving their mission. And our framework is not just the core of our financial coaching program, but informs our policy and our research agenda, our capacity building work, and our social enterprise. If you could move the slide. We sit across New York City, and right now in our current programming, it's professional financial coaches that sit at partner community-based organizations, domestic shelters, homeless centers, family justice centers. As Irene pointed out, the financial characteristics of our customers are pretty stark when they enter, really not dissimilar to the financially vulnerable populations that many on the call serve. Switching. Financial coaches help customers learn new financial knowledge and how to apply them to everyday financial behaviors. Coaching techniques to change these behaviors using goal drivers, recognizing customers' strengths, employing new accountability, and using a judgment-free zone so that customers can make the decisions that best fit their household priorities. Please advance the slide. Outcomes-driven framework. We're going to help our customers achieve action-driven goals, establish consistent contribution to savings, decrease their financial transaction costs, their credit scores, decrease debt, and maybe a little unique to the clinic, save a portion of their refund for a financial goal. Please advance the slide. There's 15,000 customers, 25 alone in 2015, and they reflects a diverse set of financial stresses, goals, and experiences. And I think many of the callers on webinar, we've really had to make it work across different funders, settings, and sectors. And I think it's given our model real core fidelity, but pushed us to be creative and flexible to kind of meet the demands and challenges of financial coaching in the field. I think it's probably one of the reasons why we were selected to participate in this study. Please advance the slide. Incredibly challenging project, but now we're on the other side of it. I'm really pleased to have demonstrated a number of statistically significant results that Irene kind of ticked off in her slides beforehand. I just want to point to some of them, which is increasing the amount of saving the frequency of it, reducing debt, increasing the credit scores, and really gratifying for us, improvements in well-being and financial empowerment, lower levels of financial stress, improved confidence in achieving financial security. Here at the clinic, we're calling it #FinancialCoachingWorks. And I think one to keep in mind, especially from a practitioner point of view, as you're thinking about program development, is that comprehensive programming, that kind of full range of not just the deficit-oriented debt and credit, but it's possible the same population, even if they're not working, to be having those conversations about savings and goals. You could advance the slide. A little bit shade, but hopefully you can read the white language in it. Our challenge financial coaching, training, coaching a lot of ground. A financial coach has to know statute of limitations, how to write a credit reporting bureau letter, but also a range of soft skills like active listening, mutual accountability. The second is content consistency. No matter how good your framework is, how good your logic model is, it's not all executed consistently in the field. And we want coaches to always use the same tools and language, even when we're not around. Again, they're hosted in sites that are not necessarily where the administrators and support staff are. So they're really in the field to be going through some really difficult situations by themselves. Unity. You might have a model, but one of the takeaways of CFPB had was that it has to work and can work in a lot of different situations and for different populations. Great, but that can make for a very complex system. And what we didn't want was that coaches for a homeless shelter to have a different financial coaching model and maybe not talk about savings as much as for those who are coming out of perhaps a coach that was in or hosted by a child care center. Data collection. I'm sure many of you kind of share in the idea that data is always the most fun thing to do. And so for coaches who are collecting demographics, lots of financial information, the ability to do that easily, consistently is very important for a coaching program, especially one that's kind of like driven by financial outcomes. Kind of continue with quality improvement. Evolve as your population moves, your sites move, all kinds of things, changes to regulation. And so you need to create more rapid iteration and quality improvement processes overall. You could what the clinic did post the randomized control trial. The first thing is the study taught us that we could focus on well-being more. And our programs have been trying to do this by incorporating the CFS Financial Capability Scale. Probably happier, Irene. We incorporate the long form and the short form of the CFPB Financial Wellbeing. And soon we're going to test out the CFSI Financial Health Scale. We're also trying to build out smart logic into our coaching so that if there's a question about not feeling confident about reaching their goal, what kinds of things should the coach be focusing on in the first meeting, the second meeting? The second is kind of understanding the goals and motivations. They matter. That's what the study can clearly indicated. So we're new calculator tools that help the customers plug in savings amounts and dates and gives them kind of a large range of choices and options about which savings plans are going to meet their priorities and maybe some other limitations as well. Irene pointed out that ways to improve engagement. One of the things that the coaches have been working on this last summer is kind of looking at the range of administrative tasks like partnership management, calendaring, appointment reminder calls, thinking how to smartly employ these services so we can reduce no-show rates, make sure we're communicating the services as effectively as possible. We're building a financial security ecosystem, actually past tense, we launched one last spring. And primarily because we know coaching is impactful, but if you think about a full-time coach, they carry a caseload of about 400 people. That's really a drop in the bucket of those who really need the services. So we've got ways that we can partner more robustly with our host organizations so we can reach more people and simultaneously accelerate their sector-specific missions and outcomes. So we're doing RCT and should also support the field as well. And what we've been blogging about, parts like student loans. It informs our advocacy, looking at ways to build more asset building, opportunities at tax time, or other ways to get people to save. We recently had 2 bills passed in New York legislative houses on splitting the state tax refund and I'll make direct contributions to 529 accounts. And so it's been a really helpful process overall for us. And last slide. So the New York City Council hearing this spring, and it was on more resources for financial education for women, immigrants, and older adults. I really love this photo because the individuals sitting there are a data associate and a financial coach who provided the oral testimony. And cited the control trial amongst their on-the-ground experience and the data that we were collecting to kind of really give a full summary of how impactful these services can be, and again, to serve not just those that we directly, but impact possibly hope to.
Okay, and now, yes, so thank you very much, Haiti. That was wonderful. And I look forward to having questions at the end. I think we will turn now to Karina. You ready?
Irene? Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to be here. Thank you again for having us. And as Haiti was saying, we're just grateful for all the investment up until now with CFPB and the Urban Institute and everyone who has really just helped to bring this essential information really to the larger community and the field. So, Brent, as Irene kind of gave a background on, we serve South Florida. We primarily work in Miami-Dade County, and we are a faith-based organization that has been in the serving area for 40-plus years. Our programs focus on academic achievement and also on financial stability. I lead all the financial stability programs. Irene, if you mind, next slide, please. And the following. So we run as Grow, Climb, and Achieve. Grow are the programs that work with elementary students, middle and high school students. And the Achieve programs are the financial stability programs that focus on the overall long-term financial stability of the entire community. Next slide, Irene, please. So for programs, we also very much believe that comprehensive programming is vital to financial stability. And so while the financial coaching component is something that is very much centered in one of our programs, the United Way Center for Financial Stability, we have a whole range of other programs that are integrated into the financial component, the financial coaching service. So as you can see, our programs range from small business support to financial products, emergency services, and a couple of community-wide collaboratives and initiatives that we've spearheaded in this community. Slide, please. Brent has two main campuses, but we work with dozens of partners, and we provide the financial coaching service and our other programs through other providers throughout the county. Our two main campuses, as you can see here, just some quick shots, are based in North Miami and Florida City. Just to give you a sense of very, very diverse populations that we serve down here. For this particular study, we focus specifically on key employees that specific characteristics, but overall our coaching program does serve a very wide range of folks, everything from different income levels to documented and undocumented folks that have very, very different issues. And so just give you a sense that the lessons that we've taken from this study have really been able to help us to expand and refine the services that we provide to a whole bunch of different populations. Right?
Jumping around, I hit the wrong button.
That's okay. So for the Center for Financial Stability, as I said, this is the one that focuses on the coaching. We do have finance coaches, folks that at the time of the study were coming in mostly with financial backgrounds. One of the changes that I'll talk about is actually that now they come from a different range of backgrounds, including social work, and other very non-financial kinds of backgrounds. And these are some of the services that we provide. And as you can see, to someone who comes into the center, they receive a whole wide range of services safely without realizing that they're probably coming in through different programs, whether they be ours or program partners. So to cement that idea of that comprehensive program model. So in terms of the study, Irene did a great job, and the briefs that CFPB has put out are actually really great in terms of summing up all the details of it. So I'm just going to focus on the changes that this has helped us with, and probably one of the most valuable findings was that we really understood the value and the potential of that first session and that second session. We had, kind of known subjectively, but this allowed us to know concretely that behavior change was possible within just that 1 or 2 or 3 sessions. So that helped change a lot of things at the program level for us, also at the organizational level. I think it also really, really changed the way that our stakeholders perceived our financial services, specifically the coaching service. And just to give you an example, even our marketing, for example, we have one piece of collateral that now uses a tagline, just 2 sessions can change your financial life. So this has really been something that's been critical because we're trying to have financial coaching be everyday kind of vocabulary in our community. This has been tremendous to be able to communicate to folks that it's not necessarily something where you have to commit to for 24 sessions or whatever. Even 1 visit, 2 visits, 3 visits already begin to change things. So in terms of program changes, we obviously focused on improving our engagement, and we changed everything from our physical space and the environment that clients initially came into to staff training, from our receptionists to our financial coaches, and we really focused on making sure that our first session was bringing that value to that client. In terms of delivery and program design, we have increased on-site partner locations throughout the county. We have increased phone and Skype type of options that address transportation and other kinds of barriers, and also helped us to build trust by placing ourselves in community locations where we're comfortable already with that particular community partner. So it helps us address some of the trust issues that we see when folks are first learning about financial coaching and what that relationship can look like. We also created some add-on components to our program. We wanted to make sure that where before we tend to focus on a target population of folks that were quote-unquote more coaching ready, tended to have higher income, employment, that kind of a thing. We wanted to kind of expand and be able to add on financial education components or integrated partner services kinds of things, modified tools, other things that will allow us to target populations that maybe traditionally weren't coaching, but through some of these additional components could kind of help people come alongside and kind of sift out the folks that maybe could be coach ready at that point. So that helped us to bond our usual target population. At the organizational level, there's been a very big culture shift, I would say. The culture now is much more data-driven and results-oriented. We've integrated things like the financial capability scale, even outside of just the coaching program. Our staffing structure and our team development strategies have changed. There's different levels of expertise, management, a wider range of skill sets that we look for when it comes to recruiting, and there's different training that we do now, in great part as a result of the study and the kinds of the quality of service that we want to make sure that we're giving folks at that first and second session. And lastly, I would say that in terms of the outcomes-oriented, more outcomes-oriented framework that we've developed, and here this process was focused more internally at branches, and this year we focused more on sharing this with larger community. So whereas we highlighted 4 flexibility outcomes, for example, that were key for our work at branches, that have now been shared with the larger community through all grantees that work with the United Way grantee program here in South Florida, which is pretty major. And as part of our community-wide work that we do, one of the things that we are going to continue to work towards is to have multiple organizations that are working in this sphere continue to share standards of excellence, coordinate services better, and hopefully be able to share data and contribute more and more to the field going forward.
Great. Thanks so much, Karina. I will just, let's see. There's your contact up for a minute, and then there's one slide just with some resources that I'll put up. So I already have 3 questions that have come in via email. Let me just quickly let the operator, can you give instructions for audio questions so people can tee those up? We don't have too much time, but.
Thank you. For questions or comments from the phones, it is *1. Make sure your phone is unmuted and record your name. And to withdraw that request, you may press *2. Once again, for questions from the phones, it's *1 and record your name. I'll say.
Great. Okay. Well, those of you who want to ask questions via audio or dialing one, we've gotten 3 questions here. The first one was aimed at Financial Clinic, which came in during Heidi's talk, which is how is the financial coaching funded at the Financial Clinic?
We both government or through public funding, so it's written into New York City's budget to support our financial empowerment centers. We serve Central and Eastern Queens, and we have additional support from a range of intermediaries here in New York City, and then sometimes we contract out with a CBO that will want a financial coach from 1 to 3 days, and we'll find the resources to pay for the financial coaching time.
Great. Okay. See a second question, and I think this would be for both of you. How long are these financial coaching sessions usually? Heidi, you first.
So to pick up on Karina's point, that first meetings are incredibly important. Ideal would be to have a 75-minute first session for us, and the follow-ups are anywhere between 45 minutes and 1 hour. Realistically, it's more like a standard 1 hour for both first, second, and third. It's a little bit hard because we don't always control the calendars, and it just provides more consistency for site coordinators if they have like hour blocks.
And Karina, are you muted?
Moment, she's rejoining. She got disconnected there, so she's joining right now. One moment.
Okay. Actually, what I'm going to do is answer a question that I think I can answer. It said, early in the presentation, you mentioned the attrition and no-shows are common. What is the typical no-show rate? Well, I answer that just for the 2 programs in the study during the time of the study. So again, this is, sort of just one particular data set. But well, I know this is really not the same question. You ask about a typical no-show rate. I mean, we know from the study that about half of the people who expressed interest in coaching never came to one session, and then of people who came once, and then once people starting to come, there was a pretty sharp drop-off, a relatively sharp drop-off rate. But your question may actually be no-show, meaning someone who signs up, scheduled to come and doesn't come. That's a different question. So let me direct that one back to Heidi and Karina. And once Karina's on, you can also answer the length of.
Karina's rejoined and her line is open.
Okay. Karina, did you hear the question about length of coaching session?
Would you be rephrasing that question again or repeating it?
Sure. Actually, there's now several questions on the table. One was just quickly, what is the length of your typical coaching session?
Okay. So for us, during the study, typically it was about 60 minutes. I would say even now, especially with us prioritizing that first session is usually 90 minutes. 60 minutes, I would say, for the first session. Second and third sessions are usually 45 minutes.
Great, thank you. Okay, I had just been asking, let me take the order here, and I haven't even made it to voice questions yet. Somebody asked about, we talked about the kind of attrition rate, or the 50% rate of people not ever coming, and then the fact that some people only came to 1 or 2 sessions. There was also a question here about what is a typical no-show rate, which I'm interpreting to mean someone who actually makes an appointment and then doesn't show up. So someone who made it as far as the appointments stage. Karina and Haiti, do you have a reaction to that, an answer to that?
This is Haiti. And this was a tick higher than our normal 40% no-show rate for financial coaching. But just to provide a little bit of context, we also provide free tax prep services, and we previously provided legal services. No-show rates are also, well, they're low 30s. And so while I think the no-show rates are important for good programming and the efficient use of a coach's time, I do want to put in the context that services do have higher rates than we would like.
Yeah, not typical. Karina, do you want to respond to that?
We try those as well, and for coaching specifically, we have 40 to 50% no rate to that first session. Once they have actually come into the first session, generally the no-show rate drops to 10 to 20%.
Great, that's very helpful. Okay, a few other. Let me quickly. I'm going to read there's a couple of questions that were emailed, and I still want to quickly see if we can get any of the voice ones in, if there are some. But a couple of things. What are the qualifications required to be a coach? That's going to vary by program, but it says to coach in our community. I'm not sure what community questioner is from, but it really depends on the program is going to set qualifications, but I'll let you guys address that. And then also, what is the key to making the first session worthwhile? And I just have to say, I'm personally drawn to this one. Someone said, because I'm very interested in auto finance and helping car finance and helping consumers navigate that, someone asked, how do you provide car loan services? I want to put that up. So I'm just going to put all those out there. Oh, and there's lots more coming in. All right, do you want to address those? And then
stab at that one since it's got the car loan one. So in terms of what makes the first session worthwhile, I think it depends on the population that you're working with. But I generally think that you just got to focus on valuable for that particular client. And so for folks that, for example, have goals that are more towards homeowners or that kind of a thing, something like a credit report, something that's tangible that they can walk away with from the first session is very key. For folks that might be a little bit more in that towards a crisis kind of a moment, walking away with tangible resources or warm referrals to that provide emergency assistance. Or it might be for folks that are more in need of motivation. It might be something like vision boarding, something that's just helping them even picture their goals. So it really just depends on the population that you're working with. In terms of the car loans, Ways to Work is actually a national model that has recently been undergoing some changes. So really cool thing that we're doing in South Florida is what we're doing is we're building off of financial coaching and taking clients that are in need of this, clients who have, noted or poor credit and low income, et cetera, and we're tying them to or connecting them to credit unions. So affordable products through credit unions. If you'd like more information about that, feel free to reach out to me directly.
Great. There's a couple of really interesting, there's actually a whole little debate going on here in the Q&A, which I'm loving. But let me just see if there's anyone on voice questions. Operator, do we have any audio questions that have come in?
We have one question from Susan Lanahan. Go ahead, your line is open.
Susan, and I was wondering if we could be sent the PowerPoint presentations being shown by each of our guests.
Sure. Email the CFPB FinEx inbox and say you want the slides, and I've had a few requests via the Q&A function. I will send them out to you. So email CFPB_FinEx, FINEX, @cfpb.gov. Actually, I'm just going to, if you look on the screen, I'm just putting up the, that's more. You'll see email address up on screen if you're on the WebEx, and just say you want the slides, and I can send you the whole deck, mine, as well as the presenters, the other presenters.
Okay, thank you.
And then I'm just going to, Oh, more and more interesting questions coming in. What should we do? Questions on car loans. Questions on, oh boy, I don't know what to pick. Let's see. There is a brief. I like the fact the Financial Clinic is in 13 sites across New York City. It seems like a lot of employers to man or to staff these sites. Is this a problem? Maybe that's a question of how many staff Financial Clinic you guys are using to take care of all 13 sites.
Yeah, good point. The financials are on a rotation basis, so they often cover a minimum of 2, and in the extreme cases, 4, but we only have one coach who does that. So it makes them really adept at having to figure out different organizational cultures, what motivates or what the needs of each organization kind of naturally reflect in the populations that are served. It kind of creates a very nimble coach. It is challenging, though, to try to make that core model work across so many different permutations and situations.
And then I'm going to comments which are very interesting. Someone says that it seems like with the high attrition rate or no-show rate, there are 2 ways to address this. One approach would be to get more done in the first few sessions to make them as impactful as possible, which came up. And this person also says, but on the other hand, you could respond by being more intentional in the screening process. And it's like more screening versus more early impact might be tension between those two. Can anyone speak to the pros and cons of these 2 approaches? We'd love his reaction. I suspect that the screening may be harder to do in practice than it sounds. It would be my guess, but let's see what Karina and Haiti have to say to that. Screening versus just more impact in the first couple sessions.
Go ahead, Karina.
I was going to say, Haiti, do you want to go first?
Oh, well, I think actually it's probably both, all of the above, or that kind of response. And in the clinic, a phrase that we sometimes use is everyone needs financial coaching, but everyone needs a financial coach. And what we're to get at with that is that there are people who are just checking their credit report. There's no flags there. There's really, they don't have any intention of buying a house, buying a car, accessing more credit. So in some sense, like, they're accessing financial coaching, but they're not using the full impact coaching, because coaching is really helpful for those who have like acute prison issues, like a financial distress. And so some of that is screening, making sure that people are accessing the right slice of financial coaching that works for them. And we can kind of get to that by helping the CBOs or other partners kind of do financial coaching. Maybe a workforce program might benefit from pulling credit report downloads because that helps make prospective job seekers more viable candidates for future employment. And where that financial security kind of lines up with their normal organizational mission, they can perhaps like take a few financial coaching activities, and then they find the person who has massive identity theft or like has to figure out how to close down 3 credit cards. Then they access the on-site financial coach who gets who's first primed and ready because they've been given a particular motivation to kind of seek out the financial coaching, kind of stick with it.
So from a branch's perspective, we're actually okay with where things stand now in terms of the 40 to 50% not coming to the first session, and then only 10 to 20% not coming to the second session. We actually, that a big part of the first drop-off is natural bandwidth. Sometimes you think that you're going to be able to start working on something, and then your other life priorities just kind of take over, and it's just not time. What we have done, though, is we have different levels of services. So, for example, we have what we call associate financial coaches, which are folks that would work with the people who are not necessarily interested in a deep coaching relationship and are just looking to maybe just have one meeting with someone to particularly deal with like one thing. So our receptionist actually has been trained on screening the client requests when they come in, and she's able to place them with what we call like single services versus the coaching services. So there's a screening process that goes on there, and then when it gets to the them actually working with the coach, again, what we do is we just actually overbook. So we know that we're going to have 40 or 50%. The coaches just tend to overbook, and if people don't show up, they have other things to do during that time, and so that's how staff has been able to just deal with that.
Thank you so much. There's a couple other questions about training and how to get started and all, but since we are kind of past time and there are people trying to get to the room here where I'm doing the webinar, I think we're going to stop. But if you want to email any additional questions, if you send to that CFPB FinEx inbox, I can send it on to the panelists and get responses or answer in some other way. So again, thank you so much, guys. This was great. We had a great turnout. We had lots of great questions. I want you all to look at the 2 briefs that came out from the Bureau, as well as the longer urban report, and then Branches and Financial Clinic put out their own report, kind of shorter report with a perspective on the study as well. So there's lots of things you can look at, and they're all referenced in the briefs that the Bureau just put out. So I hope people found this useful. It's really exciting to have such positive results for a financial education, financial coaching initiative, and we hope that will be useful to all of you in either implementing or in making the case to others about why this is actually an effective strategy. So thank you so much to my co-speakers here, Haiti and Karina. This was recorded, so you'll be able to listen to it afterwards. It'll be posted on the FinEx page. So thank you very much, everybody, and sorry we went over, but thanks for all the enthusiasm that we heard from all of you. So goodbye, everyone.
This concludes conference. Thank you for participating. You may disconnect at this time.